Welcome to the Access Pacific User Group meeting. Tonight, Linda Ewen is going to share her technique for sharing data with users outside your local network. It relies on some very simple, straightforward techniques that don't require the internet and FTP and all the other facilities we sometimes think we need. One bit of housekeeping, I forgot to turn my own camera off. The annual MVP meeting is what, next week in Seattle? Or is it the week after?
Next week.
It is next week, yeah. So typically at the MVP Summit, the people who attend do get some inside information on what's coming down the pike, although they're all under NDA and won't be able to share specifics. But I'm hoping that we see some smiley faces next week at the end of it all. And there will be a conference on Friday, Access Days, which I will attend and rub shoulders with some of the people and see if I can pick up any tidbits of interest. So with that, we'll dive into Linda's presentation. I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay, I will start sharing.
And I will let Linda go ahead and start. Linda, how do you prefer questions? Before, during, or after?
I don't care. People can interrupt. I'm fine.
So I'll watch the chat for questions.
Okay. All right. So the issue is this. I have a client. They're a legal loan shark, which some people said is morally reprehensible, but they've helped people by if it's a 5 million, if people are suing for like 5 million, and often it's more than that, but they can't pay their rent. So my client will lend them like 10,000, 20,000 at exorbitant rates. However, if the client doesn't get the money, they absorb it. So my client absorbs whatever they gave them, and they have many, many, many different ways of setting up the investments, and the system itself is fairly complicated. Okay, but we're not going to really go into the system now. They have two people entering data. Actually, they work in the office sometimes, and they actually are able to work remote as well. And they had a third person, and because the process I established requires third-party software, I thought I would put it on the third person's computer. And what it would do is, as soon as the person exited the actual real database, it would automatically zip the file up, and later that night, Outlook would send it. So, but I noticed, okay, because the third person isn't there anymore, the two people are managing by themselves. Okay, I realized they weren't getting the most current data. So I came up with a separate program which runs just on this third computer, which they still have, which does the process. So I can. One alternative was the accountant needs the data, but doesn't need it every day, and the accountant doesn't enter any data. So the accountant isn't in the office. Now, one approach would be to have the accountant log in remotely as well, but I thought a better solution, because the accountant only needs the back end and never changes any of the data. So if we could email the back end to the accountant once a month, that would be great. Okay, my clients are indulged. I suggested that once a month they email the back end. Do we have to? Can't you set something up that's automatic? So that's how this process came about. And the accountant's databases turned out to be very different from the one they're using. He has many, many different reports, and it's just totally different. But it's enabled him to perform most of his functions without having to call the office, which is what he used to have to do to find out on particular investment, what was going on. And it also allows the accountant to work whenever he wants because it's on his computer. He doesn't have to log into the office at all. So the process is, we're on the client site at this point. This is the client site. However, I'll open it with holding the shift key down. Okay. I don't know why it's not here. Is it here? And there it is. Okay. It has a lot of different tables. I didn't realize I didn't need all these tables. Okay, let's go to forms. Forms. Did I open the wrong one? Yeah, I think I opened the wrong one. There it is. Okay, this is the other one was the actual real database, which nobody needs to see. Okay, so on this form, go to design. Events. Okay. I don't remember what every 60,000 timer interval is, but it runs pretty
1 minute.
consistent. Excuse me?
It's 60 seconds.
60 seconds. No, it's more than it doesn't run every minute, I can tell you that.
Well, that's 60,000. That value is milliseconds. So
Okay,
that's,
yeah.
that tells you.
Let's go to the definition. Okay, so this is what it runs. And all this particular program does is run a bat file that zips the data. Now, you have to shell out because you can't copy a live database when you're actually in the database. Okay? And do events is just, I don't know. It took a while for me to get all this to work. And also, in order for this to work, you have to have a licensed copy of Winzip and a third-party product, Sperry Software, which has also agreed to give us a discount, which George has on his website, I think, but I can pull that up as well. So let me show you what the bat file is. I'll close it. And no, you know what? Cancel. View. Because I need it to run. Okay. Photo is edit. Edit. Edit notepad. Okay. So this is the file that is run. I think it's every half hour. So, so it copies the live database. I don't remember why I had to set the path, but I think it wouldn't work if I didn't. It copies it, and then you run Winzip. I don't remember what O is, minus O. And it zips Barry's data. Barry's the accountant. It hasn't had a known error since I can't remember when. I don't remember. Probably only when I was doing the development. And there's a copy of this, George, on your website, right?
Yeah, yes, this part is on the website. I'm not sure
Yes.
about the Sperry discount. I have to double check, but this part is up there. Yeah, I put it up yesterday.
Okay, but you'd have to, again, in order to run it, you have to have a legitimate copy of Winzip. Okay, and then because they didn't want to remember to do it themselves every month. I mean, that's all it took is they didn't have to zip it up. The database isn't that big, but they didn't want to remember. So Outlook Okay, has something called Sperry Software. And no, I haven't backed up in forever. Okay, what I do is I send it to myself every day. I'll show you that, just to make sure it's working. And so the reason the start date is unfortunately, truth be known, occasionally it fails and I have to reinstall the program. So it started, it really started years ago. Okay. Email every weekday. I remember at one point I looked and I hadn't gotten the message and I didn't understand why. And then I realized it was a Sunday. There's no end date and it automatically includes the file that's been zipped. Again, the reason I had to come up with a standalone Access database is because nobody was using the program. So the program was not running the Winzip bat. So the data was out of date. Are there any questions at this point?
There are a couple, yeah. One that's come up, does it have to be WinZip or would like an alternative like 7-zip work as well?
It might, I don't know. First of all, you don't necessarily have to zip it. I zipped it because, it just seemed like a good thing to do. But, there may be other ways of doing it. I've actually talked to Sperry about including a zip option on this, I'll make this larger again.
Along those lines, another thought just occurred to me, which is the fact that some organizations might reject the AccessDB extension as being potentially
Oh, yes, that's true.
virus. So that
That's
might
true.
be a factor. Yeah.
But what you could do is send it, change the name. Like when I sent George the everything, his Outlook rejected it. So I changed his Outlook. He rejected the zip file completely. So what I did was I changed the extension to text, and then George was able to unzip it. Right?
Yeah. That I've done that before.
George,
I also have.
Can I interrupt a second, Linda?
Please do.
The relevant point about alternative software is that it needs to have a command line option, because what Linda showed was calling WinZip from the command line. And I have myself looked into this, but long time ago, WinZip used to provide a special utility called the command line utility. I guess now that is no longer necessary. But if 7-zip has a command line, and it may well do, but then of course you'd have to code it to match the 7-zip command line.
Yes, and 7-zip does have a command line, and it's free.
You couldn't run this though, because this is coded for WinZip.
Exactly, you'd have to change it.
Also, so that's the one for the accountant. Let's make this a little larger. I'll show you the one for this one runs monthly on the second day of the month, but it's the same thing. And I, the accountant knows how to, unzip it and put it into the right directory. Occasionally he calls me because he forgets.
Can I ask another question while I'm thinking about it?
Sure.
You mentioned that the Sperry software has to be licensed. Can you give us an idea of what it costs for a license?
I think it's $30. Here, let's go to that website. We have time.
Is that a perpetual license, Linda?
Sperry Software. They have a lot of other products, and they're a very good company. Check out our tools. Yes, it's a perpetual license. I don't have to pay. We don't have to pay every month or anything. Okay, so we have email. As you can see, there are a lot of. I've already subscribed.
We're not seeing that screen.
Let me see if I can find the one that I use.
We need you to share a different screen. We're still looking at your client's desktop.
I have to share this screen?
Yeah, can you change?
Okay, better, huh?
Yeah, now we can see you. Yeah.
Okay, so it's got a lot of stuff. And the prices are very reasonable, as you can see, right? And they have very good support. They're not, I mean, it's email, but the directions, and they're just very pleasant people. I'm glad I found them. So let's see if I can show you more of their stuff. Oh, there it is. Okay. And I'll show you the one I use. All right. You can see a lot of stuff. And I'll give you I'll put the discount in the all right, let's see.
Yeah, please do. I'm pretty sure I included that in the website, but I have
Yeah,
to.
but I can do it again.
Yeah, just
Okay.
make sure I put it up there with the other stuff.
Email. All right. Let's look for email. Okay. Schedule recurring email. All right, let's see if we can. There are two of them. In fact, I only realized this the other day. And you can, if you read it, I mean, I don't have to read it to you. Oh, it's $49.99. I thought it was cheap. But that's pretty darn cheap, right? And you don't need to pay them royalties or anything, okay? Let me just see if I'll get the, I'm going to get the discount code. Access, miscellaneous, George.
I'm miscellaneous.
Okay, that's the code. I don't know if I'll put the, here, I'll put the whole thing in.
Can you put the code in the chat for us?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. They didn't seem to say, that it was only good for a certain amount of time or any of that. So,
Right. Well, we can give it a try if somebody needs it. Yeah.
okay, so let's go to the chat.
No, it's the chat in the Zoom window.
Chat. Oh, of course it is. There it is.
Okay.
There. Oh, yes, there it is. Okay, and I'll add Sperry Software.com. Okay.
I think you put it in some other chat.
Yes, it's in chat. All right.
No, I don't think. Hang on.
No,
Linda.
you put it in the
George,
Teams chat. The one.
No, she put it in here, but she's pasted something different from what I suspect she wanted to. Oh, I don't know. Please have them use
Well,
this.
Oh,
there's
there
a
it is. It
discount
finally
code.
showed up. I take that
see
back.
it.
Yeah.
It is in there.
No,
You
it
do
finally
see it.
showed up. Yes, it did. Yeah.
All right.
It was just slightly delayed. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, great.
And oh, so let me show you if I can. Well, if I don't know if I apparently if I can show you on my computer what it looks like. I don't know how. If I can't share, I'll show you what it looks like when it comes in. Can you see this?
No, we're still looking at the same.
All right. So how do I share the
Okay,
whole?
stop sharing. If you
Stop sharing.
Stop sharing. And then when you start
There's
sharing
a new share.
or create a new share, you can create a new share
New share.
and select the whole window. No, not the window, but the screen, I mean. Select the screen
Screen.
because you should have the option of sharing.
One of the choices on the left, Linda.
Did that do it?
Nope. Well, we're seeing your desktop behind.
You are. Do you see my adorable family?
Yeah, if you minimize the go to assist window, we should be able to see your desktop.
Oh, okay. Good. You got it?
Yes.
All right. So now let me show you what happens. We don't need. It comes in at 9:30. So, or it didn't come in yet, I guess, but it's coming on the other days. Come on. It was there yesterday. Oh,
Well, nothing like a live demo to reveal the bugs, right?
I don't understand why it's not showing because I certainly didn't delete it.
Well,
And
this leads me perfectly into my follow-on topic when we get done here.
I tell you what, let me, what I'll do is I'll go to assist and I'll run a test. I don't know why it didn't decide. Maybe because I'm playing with it. Oh, yeah. No. Magnolia database. Okay, Outlook. And okay. And send test now. And let's see if it shows up. Minimize this. Yeah, there it is.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, Angela is no longer there, but she's still alive. I don't want anyone to be too worried about it. But
Perfect.
and there it is.
And that is the database. That's the AccessUserGroups.
And what's nice is that if necessary, it has never proven necessary, but they have had some power outages, and I could actually run their whole system on my computer. Okay, and you can see it. The date modified was today at 4/11. Because when I looked at it a few weeks ago, I realized that it was coming up with old data. Now, in truth, the accountant Barry doesn't need to have the absolute super latest data, but you know.
Well,
Okay.
that brings up an interesting aspect to this too, Linda, which is that I started out by talking about how we all kind of live in the internet world where everything is instantaneous. And this process is anything but instantaneous, but it still is adequate for
Yeah,
the
we
purpose.
don't want it to be. I mean, it would drive them crazy. Okay, let me show you. Now, this is not, part of the, whole Barry and whatever. We'll get rid of this. And you're still able to see my screen, right?
Yes, we're still seeing it. Yeah.
This can be run from the database. You don't need Winzip or anything. And I use this for some of my clients. It backs up the database automatically all the time. And one of my pet stores has like 6 different computers. And one day the back end crashed and I couldn't recover it. I mean, it's infrequent, but it does happen. And I looked to see which of the registered had the latest copy of the database, and I was able to restore within minutes. So, edit. Now this you can run from any Access database. I mean, even though companies have backups, sometimes, it can take them days to recover or something. So I have installed this for several of my clients. Okay, it happens to have this date, but that's because in the code it actually changes the number, the date. Does everyone know what I'm talking about? Any questions?
So you're basically copying the current version to of the Y drive.
Yeah.
So I have a story about that.
Go ahead.
I will tell the short version of it. I helped a friend of mine install SQL Server backend for an Access application for the client, and Frank gave him the lecture on regular, frequent backups, which he did. And then one day, someone got the email which had the virus that just locked up the computer and said, "Send us X dollars and we'll unlock your computer. So this client, the first thing he did was format the hard drive, forgetting that both his SQL Server backend and the backup of the SQL Server backend were on that hard drive.
Oh,
Oh, and then he called Frank and asked if Frank had a copy of the database. To which he said, yeah, I have a copy that you gave me 6 months ago to work with. And it ended up costing him more in clerical salaries to re-enter all of that 6 months worth of data
oh,
that he
geez.
would have paid in ransom. So the first question I always asked, or after that, was, now you're sure this is not going to be impacted by something local, right? So that Y drive is safely apart, right? And
Well,
there's also an external offsite copy.
of
Ideally,
course. And
ideally.
okay, if we go back to they now consider this my computer, which it isn't. But there's something called Macrium, which the hardware person set up, and that backs up the whole computer, and I check it on a regular basis. And you can see they're all being backed up because Angie's computer crashed in a way that we had everything had to be recovered, including my whole process with the Winzip. I think we had to call them to get another copy, or I did, or it was a mess. So now we have Macrium. You know, it's like life insurance. You don't want to use it.
So now, is this a license also?
Yes. I do not know a whole lot about Macrium. My hardware guy set it up,
Okay.
or their hardware guy,
Okay.
who I work with, or I recommended. It's not that I don't know him.
So
I
are there
use the
any other
products.
questions or comments, discussions? We're about 40 minutes in. Anybody have a question?
I haven't seen any. Oh, go on if someone wants to say.
No.
I was going to say I haven't seen any outstanding questions in the
Yeah.
chat.
Yeah, it seems like we've covered pretty much everything. So Linda, is there anything else you wanted to include here?
Not that I can think of right off the bat. I mean, I have, other presentations. My favorite
Okay, well,
temp
I
tables.
kind of want to bridge over because you said something earlier and oh, James, you have a question?
Oh, I just was going to chime in here. I've been, in the chat. I've been doing this for a while, and I've got a similar approach. Like I say, I used the free, 7-zip in the past, but I set up, similar, batch file creations. Copy the database, and send it, to my secure FTP site automatically by user. But I've also used for tech support. Go Support Now is an online thing. rhub.com, I just put that link in there, has a sort of a web server that I have, and that has worked out, well in the past. I can even set up just, remote access whenever I need to for certain clients. So I can go in and take care of things, remotely. And transfer files back and forth. Tonight, was an issue with my another California library client trying to get a copy of their database, and I've got Teams. Teams was not working to get them set up as a guest, as a team, so I could move the files. Zoom was not working, to transfer the file, whether their IT department locked it down or not. You can never count on the larger enterprises being able to do what you need to do. Small customers, well, you could just kind of do what you have to do. But the biggest thing is, I didn't want to email anything. It's a sensitive database that is unencrypted, and I wouldn't do it. So hopefully I can get Zoom to actually work for all clients all the time. Otherwise, I'll probably, continue using my RHub, appliance to, to do this.
Well, that's a
Um,
good point. Encryption. Linda, are you concerned about the encryption on what is financial?
No, no. But while we're here, let me show you Go to Assist and how that works.
Well,
Because I happen to like it. Now, they're trying to introduce a new version, which I hate. And Windows, every time I reset my computer, wipes out my old version and I have to reinstall it, which is nuts. But nevertheless, okay, so unimportant, okay. So these are the clients that I deal with on a, regular or semi-regular basis. And I also have a way of getting to my computer if I'm, somewhere else. And you can run this from the Go to Assist site as well. And this is for unattended support. Okay. And then you have file transfer options, send data. I have screen sharing. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll go to the client, and if I want to show them on my computer, I can share my computer with them. I have to admit it's expensive. I grandmothered in to $500 a year, which is important to me because I once participated in a beta test, but I think they now charge a little over $700. Now, my clients use, when they want to log in, something called Splashtop, which works very well for them. They don't have a need to be in, so many different computers. Let's see if I can find Splashtop. I know I have it. I don't need it, but there. This is like $99 for the topmost thing. I mean, and they have fabulous support. I thought for that kind of money, in fact, they even have a slightly cheaper version that they wouldn't have any support, but they have a lot of support. They're very good about support. I mean, I don't know if they have a lot, but they're very good about it. So I recommend that if you have clients who need to log in. My clients have not complained. One of the things occasionally, in fact, the client I was showing you, Magnolia, sometimes they have Splashtop logged in at home and they go into the office and they can't access the database because Splashtop is accessing it. So I get a call and I ask them to I can log into their home computer and get, log out for Splashtop. So I think it's pertinent only since we're discussing ways that people can get into other people's computers. And as I say, Splashtop, let's go to Splashtop. Look at these prices, huh?
They're all in dollars.
And they're very, very good. I mean, it's like, I think it's a little light for what I need, but it's great for my clients who just, work out of the office and then sometimes, are in the office. So I think, yeah, $99 a year. I got the pro version. I don't even know if I need the pro or if they need the pro.
Yeah.
All right. So
I kind of, we're still recording. So I'm wondering if I'll probably delete some of this in the editing, depending on what I see there.
okay.
So we kind of, are we finished with the backup and data sharing part?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I have sort of something on my mind here, which you said a couple of things, and
George,
yeah.
mind if I have just run something by, because I don't think it was ever, at least if it was, I missed it, explained. There was talk about sending files, but it was never explained that those files get put in a specific slot so that the front end, which already had linked tables to the back end tables, could continue as normal. I assume that's what we're talking about here, yeah?
Well, if you're talking about what I did, the accountant has a directory, Magnolia database, and it links to the back end, Magnolia database back end. I don't exactly remember what I called it.
So the back end
once it's a file, he just overwrites the one that he has.
Indeed. That's what I was getting at. So the front end doesn't change because the back end is in the new version of the back end is in the same location as the old version, which was already provided the link tables.
Yes, and thank you for clarifying that. My kids say I never make any sense at all.
Oh, no, sometimes.
I'm not sure that's the case.
So,
Yeah. Okay, so
George, Dave has just put his hand out. Sorry to interrupt.
so Brian, was it Brian that had his hand up, or
Oh, I beg your pardon. No, it was Brian.
was Brian? Yes.
Yeah, just a quick one, Linda. I notice you're still using MDB format. Any reason for that?
oh, well, you mean for some of my clients?
Well, that
Oh, all
database
right,
was
this is the all right, this is the issue. You know, the latest versions of Access won't relate to an MDB. And I've been gradually converting the clients over. So in some cases, some of my clients, the back end is an MDB because I had to convert them gradually using Access 2010, which is the last version that will allow you to use an AccessUserDB and link to an MDB. But I actually have one client who is completely MDB. There's been no reason to change it. It's not a very complicated system, and you know, it just works. And I didn't want to have to, I mean, I didn't want to have to retire by charging every one of my clients every time we had a new version. Now, occasionally they have gotten new versions, in which case I update. And if I'm comfortable enough that they all have an AccessDB on all the computers in the office, then I move the back end to an AccessDB.
Did
So
you just say, Linda?
Yeah, Adrian, you're talking about the AccessDB to MDB?
Yeah.
I have the same question. Go ahead.
Did you say that 2010 was the last version that you could do that with? Because I thought that was still current. As in,
the new versions of Access won't link to an MDB, which I think is pretty dumb. But then again, you know, Microsoft has a whole lot more money than I do.
I
So they
would
must
have to
some
verify.
idea.
2010 is the last one that'll convert an MDB to an AccessDB, I think.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
the
but that's
conversion.
different.
Yeah, maybe the linking I don't think is an issue.
Yeah, 2010 is the last version that will read Access 97.
Yeah, but then read 97.
Database access. I'm just doing a quick test now. Import to no link.
No, Crystal just pointed out that maybe it's the 97 format that's the issue, which is true.
Oh, as opposed to the 2003 format, which is the latest MDB.
Because
that might make more sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That could make sense. Whereas, let me see if I can find. I should have some MDBs because we've got quite a lot of old rubbish in here. MDB areas.mdb. Open that. Do an OK. And this gives me the ability to link. Yes, I can link to an MDB file now without any problem.
Yeah. Okay.
From what version?
From I'm running Access 90, not 97. I'm running Access 2019, I think. In 64-bit, and it says
MDB 2019.
No.
Access 2019 will link to an MDB.
Yeah,
no, I didn't catch it again.
I'm stepping over her. There are two flavors of MDB. There's the 97 flavor and the 2003 flavor. It's the 97 flavor that is the issue.
As in, is no longer supported.
Is no longer supported, yeah.
Right. I can confirm the later one is supported.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I have clients, you know, I've had clients with me for 30 years. So, you know, yeah. And there didn't seem to be any reason every 3 years or every year to go change them to a different database. They don't need new features. They don't need, you know, anything special.
Well, yeah. And I think
and the ones that do, I convert.
If they want it, they can ask for it.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is really, if it still works, don't fix it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes with one exception, and James has just pointed this out, which I think is probably something we ought to cover. You're transporting unencrypted data in a zip file over email, and that's probably not something that would be recommended.
I guess so.
Well, you don't forget, George, if it's an ActDB, and I think this demonstration was mainly for an ActDB backend. There was a small part of it which covered a zip file, a bat file which included an MDB, but mainly I think this was ActDB. You can encrypt an ActDB file even before it's zipped.
The data?
I could do some encryption.
Yeah, you
One
can
of
do
my
that.
clients.
Yeah. I mean but that's the point. The data itself needs to be protected.
Well, the whole file is encrypted if
Yeah.
you have an ActDB with, and you specify that it's to be encrypted with a password. You'll need to give it a password.
Yeah. Well,
You give it a password, it encrypts it automatically, and that data then is not.
is secure. But the point is that just grabbing the unprotected ACCDB and sending it is probably not the best practice. However, I also believe that that Winzip does support encryption itself. I haven't used it for several years, but if I recall correctly, Winzip has the ability to encrypt files before it transmits them.
Very likely.
Yeah.
Well, it saves them. They're encrypted into the zip file itself.
Yeah, the zip file itself is encrypted. Yeah. I haven't done it for a long time, but I'm pretty sure. So yeah.
I mean, everything seems to be working, at some point something will break or something will go wrong, but
Yeah, then you fix it. Eric has his hand up. Go ahead, please, Eric.
George, so yeah, there's encryption in place, which is encryption in the file, and there's encryption in transit, which is having an encrypted stream.
True.
You can just use PGP to encrypt the file before you send it, even over in the clear. Or, and this is just because I've spent a lot of time with Linux, you can use SSH and you can use it versus Windows subsystem for Linux, or perhaps even directly in Windows. And if you can get that set up with public key authentication, it's just, the NSA can't even crack it if you use the right algorithm, or at least only the NSA. Or perhaps GCHQ in your case, Adrian.
Well, Eric, I have personal experience with that, by the way. I won't share. I was in the Army Security Agency, which is the military companion to the National, back in the day. But that's a whole different story.
Did you know my cousin, Don Kraft?
Say that again?
I wonder whether you knew my cousin, Don Kraft.
Kraft?
K-R-A-F-T.
K-R-A-F-T.
The name is not familiar, but we can talk about that offline. That's
fine. He was in that line of work too.
I'm talking the late 60s, early 70s.
Well, he's Don is 90 years old if he's a day.
Oh, so he's okay. He's a predecessor then. Yeah. Anyway, the name doesn't ring a bell, but that doesn't mean anything. I've forgotten most of what I knew back then anyway. So I kind of wanted to wrap this up by branching off into a preview of next month. And
George, should I just unshare?
Yeah, you can go and unshare.
Let me unshare.
Yeah. But you guys keep dragging in new points. I'm going to go ahead and just do this. I can make you go away.
Good.
Okay.
I'm gone. Good.
So looking ahead a little bit, I've kind of alluded to this a couple of times. Next month, Tom Van Stifhout is going to talk to us about, well, I originally asked him to talk about troubleshooting, and he took it more in the direction of preventing problems. So his presentation will emphasize the kinds of things you can do to avoid getting into this position where you have to do troubleshooting. And
nice.
But a couple of things that came up tonight reminded me of that. And what I would like to do is ask you, when you come next month, to bring ideas about what you do to attack problems in your databases. You know, what steps do you normally follow? What do you look for? What kinds of problems commonly pop up? In Linda's little demonstration with tracking down the email that wasn't sent, that kind of thing. What steps do you follow when things don't work the way you expect them to work? And Tom, I think, will probably emphasize more heading off those problems. And the little story I told about my friend and his ransomware format, the hard drive, that was probably not a troubleshooting step that I would recommend.
Hey, George, a
Yes.
quick recommendation for you. When you publish this, try and
Yes.
make sure that the trouble and the shooting fit on the same line.
Oh, this is just for
We
tonight.
don't-
This is just for discussion.
We
Yeah,
don't want
Tom's
NRA
slide
reporters.
will be totally different. This is just kind of a preview to get you thinking about what I would like you to do is just come and say, you know, what would you do in this event? And the other thing that really started me thinking about it was Ben Sasserich after what was it, the lunchtime?
Then, oh yeah.
Yeah, we went through a whole long process with him. Crystal, you were there, right?
Alt A, Crystal.
Yes. And
Yeah.
it turned out to be some code that he had in there that was still running, and he commented it. So it was a logic error.
Yeah, so it's that kind of thing, you know, what kind of steps, you know, do you do to make sure that what you expect to happen is what happens, and what do you do when it doesn't happen? You know, where do you step in and say, okay, I'm going to start here. And I think in that case, we ended up commenting out lots and lots of code and just re-enabling lines of code until he found where the problem was. So anyway, that's
One of
kind
the
of a
things-
long-winded way of describing what I'm looking forward to next month.
I tend to find that I use different techniques depending. I mean, the circumstances drive the techniques I use. So who else is going to put their camera back on then? Now we're chatting.
Yeah, I'm going to turn the recording off if we're kind of at a place where we can do that.